I'm Scott Sherwood. We have Steve Shultz and Stefan Sleep, and so this is going to be a presentation that we would use in a sales management class, and I give no background when I walk in and do it. This is set up like this in a classroom. And the presentation starts with, when I got up this morning, I had a craving for chocolate chip cookies. And so you have 4 different options that I'm presenting to you. The first one is Chips Ahoy cookies. The second one is cookie dough. Third one is raw components. And the fourth one is a can of chicken noodle soup. So if I have a craving for chocolate chip cookies, your job right now is to write down number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4, and then in 1 or 2 sentences, give me the reason why you chose that particular one. Please do so, because we're going to tally those in a second. Okay, how many number 1s do we have?
Just raise your hands. 1, 2, 3.
We got 3. Reasons for number 1.
That's what you said you wanted.
Yes, I think if I'm craving cookies, that's what I want. I don't want to work for it.
I found that my craving usually lasts for about 5 minutes, so anything else I will no longer want it.
Immediate gratification, okay. How about number 2? 1, 2, 3. Reasons for number 2.
Because I like the fresh baked taste.
Same here. And it doesn't.
No, fresh baked?
Oh, I was totally going to eat it raw.
So that's an outcome we didn't anticipate. Instant gratification.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Number 3. How many chose number 3?
That's baking your own. Flour, eggs, milk.
Thought about number 3, didn't choose it, but that was my second.
And number 4. How many people? We have 3 people on number 4. And the reasons for number 4 are?
I really don't think that you should have a cookie. That's too bad. I think that the can of soup would be better.
Number 4?
Basically the same thing. I know that I'm craving something, just the cookie's not going to be good. I know that will still solve the hunger and satiate.
I hate chocolate.
Whoa. Okay. Well, as we see, number 4 is an outlier, and we have an outlier amongst the outliers. But this is exactly what happens. We talk about it, and they say, well, why the various things is, this is for immediate gratification. But this is what you get instantaneously, and it's already predetermined what it's going to look like. In this one, we have some customization for those that haven't eaten all the cookie dough in advance. But when we cook this, we can make the cookies thinner or thicker. What's the advantage over here?
Customized.
I'm total custom. At this point, I can make 1 cookie, or I can take one large cookie, or I can make 1 small cookie with 100 chocolate chips. But I can make it
With extra chips?
with extra chips. I can make it thick. I can make it thin. I can do everything there. And what's? Excuse me?
You can even have fried eggs. You can change your mind.
Yeah, you could. You could have fried eggs.
You can have breakfast instead.
See, we actually have eggs in this carton. Normally, I'd come in with an empty egg carton and an empty milk carton. And the reason for having a can of soup is just the reasons that you gave. Not so much that you don't like chocolate, but that maybe that isn't the best solution. Maybe you need to think outside the box. Maybe instead of having cookies, you should have something healthier. But we're not here in a class on baking or food. We're going to translate this into a sales management function.
And we're talking about selection for a new sales rep for our region. So how does number 1, instant gratification, how does that relate? What would we look at here? How could we fill that position immediately?
Competitor.
Competitor is exactly what we had thought of too. So someone who is right in the business. And I'll come back to these, and we'll spend more time on these in a minute. So with a semi-custom, ready-to-go you-bake option, how would we relate that to the selection process?
Somebody with great sales skills from another industry.
A changer is exactly, that's exactly. Did you see our notes on this one? You're really.
I've done this my whole life.
And so for number 3, so we're, it's completely customized. It takes time. You have to assemble the ingredients. You have to heat up the oven. You have to do all the work involved with getting your finished product. But you get exactly what you're looking for.
I'll go again. I mean, so that's someone who has critical thinking skills, who's self-aware, who's got all the ingredients
being a great salesperson.
And who have you just described?
Yeah.
Who have you just described?
Where do they come from?
I'll give you a hint. Think of our audience. We're talking to
grads.
college
Sales
grads.
students. Might that be the perfect description of them, or imperfect description?
And what do we think we would, how would we would categorize number 4?
Just for all the hiring mistakes I've made.
So number four, we'd like to talk about as a changer. Someone maybe that doesn't have sales experience, that feels they would be good in sales. Perhaps someone who has had good life experience. Perhaps someone who has had industry experience for our industry, but never has been in sales. Maybe it's a philosophy major that just really strikes you as someone who could eventually get into the groove. But it's different. It's very different. You know, as we had said, we had the craving for cookie, and we came up with soup. So what are the things that are about the competitor that we would gain? If we hire someone from a competitor, we get instant knowledge of the industry. We get instant productiveness. We get someone who is able to come to work right away. What's the downside of this position? Likely to be expensive. I mean, if you're paying at industry grade for your, either job changer or college grad, and college grad has moved up with experience, to get someone who's already got the experience, who's already successful, who's already doing well, it costs you a lot of money. I mean, it's.
You also would hire somebody that just got fired, and then you are in trouble, right?
Well, yeah, and there's all sorts. You could have a non-compete. You could find the exact right person, and at the last minute they tell you got a non-compete. Or worse, you hire them and they didn't tell you about the non-compete, and then you're getting sued. So lots of pluses. And Scott is going to talk about some of the surrounding issues that would be in the business. But let's think about the changer, job changer. What are the positives with the job changer? Likely.
They don't have bad habits in your industry, so they've got all the right sales skills, but maybe they don't have any things that you have to unlearn.
That's correct. I mean, they're bringing a fresh look at your industry. They may not have the bad habits that some in the industry might have. They have life experience. So, a job changer is likely to be more experienced. There's a lot that goes on between 21 and 26. 5 years out of school, so they've learned how to deal with their boss. They've learned how to deal with the intergenerational things with customers.
And sometimes in an industry also, as part of that changer, it can be like a 2A and 2B, and we've just discussed 2A. 2B, a lot of industries start people in inside sales, and after they've tried it for a while, they may want to stay in, but why do they want to go into outside sales? Because that's where all the pizzazz is. They get a car allowance, they make more money, all of that stuff. So but we still have to train them. They don't know anything about outside sales, but they may know our customers. So they're not imperfect, but they're not perfect either.
But back to our example, takes more work than just taking the cookies out of the bag. So you have to teach them your business specific things, your industry things, but they have a base from which to work. What about the college grad? The advantage here is that you get to customize it right from the very beginning. Takes a much longer runway, a longer planning period, but you get to make a few chocolate chips, no chocolate chips if you don't like chocolate, or a lot of chocolate chips if you do. How many can you put in and it still bakes up like a cookie? But you can spend the time training, you can develop them, they learn your industry from the ground up. If they develop bad habits, if you've done a good job training, it's the bad habits you've trained into them, but hopefully you're a better trainer than that. But it's a much longer runway, but you can get a better finished product. And the changer, what are the issues that are involved with hiring a changer?
It could be a disruption in your whole company.
Could be a disruption in the company. Could be a risk. It's a gamble you take. They could be the greatest salesperson you've ever had. They could.
Las Vegas bet.
They could be the worst. They could be, could be a philosophy major that had all the right traits for being a good salesperson. They get in front of a customer and they dive into, well, why do you want to do this? And so I'll turn this over to Scott so we can talk about the business implications.
Stefan, sorry, we didn't. So that's all right, no problem. All right, so the last thing we wanted to do was just take a couple of minutes and talk about kind of the overall situation. So you have these 4 different types. When you're looking as the sales manager within the firm and kind of at the larger business environment, what are some of those situational factors you need to consider in terms of who is the right salesperson you hire at that point in time, right? So if you put yourself in the sales manager's shoes, what are you thinking about in terms of kind of within the firm, within the industry, what are the factors that are going to influence kind of who you want to hire for that role?
If you're ahead of plan or behind plan?
Ahead of plan, okay, so where you are financially? So how is that going to impact? So who are you going to hire if you're behind plan?
I'm gonna steal someone for a competitor because I need to hit the ground fast.
Right, and that's right. A big part of it, right, is speed. Do I need to find someone immediately, get them in there, have the experience, get them selling as quickly as possible? So, if you're
The other one might be succession plan, right? Something that you want to, maybe you.
now I have to spell succession.
Quitting?
We know Raphael's only there for 2 years, so we got to find someone to replace him. So
So you need to hire somebody out, and maybe you have enough time to mold them. So that might be a decision that you have to make.
so you can mentor. Perfect, great.
Timeline is huge.
Could be whether I have an internal training program.
Exactly. That's a
big one.
I need toward that.
If you don't, this candidate isn't going to look very good because you're going to throw them to the wolves and they're probably not going to succeed.
yeah, exactly right. If you have that, you can hire this group. If you don't have that, and I think something that also ties to that is kind of your company size, right? If you're a smaller company, you're probably not going to have that formal training program that you can bring in there. Larger company, larger size, you'll have that more formal oriented program. You can do that. So either way works there with the training side of it. Anything else?
It also depends on where you are in terms of your personal power or style in the company. If you have a history of doing really, really well, you hired noodle soup over here, your boss's boss or whatever, you're not going to have to worry that you are not hiring in the thing because they give you a few shots,
Right.
whatever. But you do it a few too many times and you lose that ability.
So part of it is hiring frequency and quantity.
Yep.
We have a couple of partners, both in insurance. One wants 8 interns a semester, one has one opening every 3 years. Every 3 years can't afford to take a gamble. They'll take a college student because they'll bring them along, but they don't need someone experienced over here. The one that's going to hire 8 interns hoping to get 1 or 2 full-time people is going to probably take college students also, but they're also interested in career changes. They're interested in several things because it's a volume business.
Right.
The other thing that you want to think about it is that, from a point of view change, if you're ever going to be migrating your business someplace else.
Exactly.
You might bring somebody in that, so it is a strategic decision.
Okay, so your overall corporate strategy, right, yep.
Let me bring up another point that goes on that. Why aren't both of you working after you graduated with your doctorate at the University of Alabama?
Why?
Why did you go somewhere else? Why didn't you stay at Alabama? Why isn't it permitted? What's the word we use?
Organizational.
Nepotism.
Academic inbreeding? We frequently have that situation in environments. We bring in and we train the same salespeople over and over again and train them exactly the same way. And what do we get? We get clones. And sometimes, if you have the luxury, bringing someone in from the outside, not necessarily just
Culture.
over here, it's bringing something else going, whoa, there's a breath of fresh air. How did that happen? Risk, but a high reward. So it's one of those things as to what do we have?
Good, yep.
Well, I was just gonna say your sales force can become very stale, and that's what
Yep.
I would do the chicken soup if I had the breadth of being able to make that decision. I would.
But would your decision been different if I'd had donuts up here instead of cookies? we had a discussion this morning, and she grabbed the last donut.
Good. I was going to say, I think that covers someone. Any other final situational factors?
This literally only takes about 15 minutes in a classroom, and it's one of the only problem I have with this would be great at the beginning of the semester, but we don't talk about selection of candidates until later on. But in that case, it's still a refresher along the way. People are looking at you need something to spice things up about week 8 or 9 anyway.
So one suggestion, I'm sorry. You raised your hand, so you go first.
I could see doing them. My immediate impression was, wow, I could do this the first week before they ever meet one of my first companies that they talk to.
That is a valid point also.
It helps them understand, why is this company, they might not be the right fit for what you're looking for at some point, but why might it make sense for a person in your shoes to value this company that has all the training?
Yeah. And I feel like in sales management, you talk so much in generalities that apply to everyone. It's good to see that there's those differences.
Northwestern Mutual touts himself that I think 49% of their management team came through their internship program. So there's a certain amount of commonality there, but they also hire a great number of college students, and they hire career changers. And so they've got a mixture of both. They see that it isn't all in one column.
And it helps the students relate to a concept they can be familiar with. Delayed gratification is something they deal with all the time. In the grocery store, they could open up the package and eat half the cookies before they even get to the register to pay for them. But if they value hot, fresh, soft, ready right out of the oven, they'll wait and delay, or they may make their own cookies. And the same thing is going on as a sales manager. You have to look at your long-run plan. Can you afford to wait and take time to develop someone the way you want to? We also thought that the college grad, having this as this relates to them. I mean, this is where you fit in. That, I know my son just graduated from ODU, and he looked at so many positions that said 3 to 5 years experience required. He was so frustrated with that, but this would have explained exactly what some companies were looking for. And by the way, he got a good job. He complains about it's not what I want to be doing, and I keep reminding him that's the 3 to 5 years experience for all these other jobs you saw that you liked.
It also, as a sales manager, makes you quantify things, because companies will say, we want somebody with 10 years of experience and we'd like them to be 25 years old. Well, wouldn't that be perfect?
Yeah.
Because we want lots of experience, but we want them to work cheap. That would be the perfect situation. But at the end of the day, you have to, as a sales manager, you have to sit down, which are the most important values that I'm going to use when I'm selecting this next candidate. So all of the things that you put down for what are the conditions there, all of those are the critical issues. What does your organization need? What about this particular job? The Federated Insurance Company that takes one every 3 years called me the last week of the semester and said, somebody quit. I've got a trainee in position to take another position, but I have no one for this job. What can you do for me? They're willing to bend their rules and change their rules in order to hire someone immediately.
One thing that I would suggest, and that is the terminology. I think that rather than keeping it open, because I was thinking about a word and you came out with word changer. So I don't know where you got that word from. So I would like, maybe the way to do it is to put some terminology here and explain what it is, and then decide where would you hire somebody.
Sure, absolutely.
Potential, so that they
Yeah.
because I think it's a great thing, but I think that the terminology has to be consistent.
Sure.
So you make sure
The students could come up with that terminology also, you're right.
I was a little surprised that all your things started with C instead of S. I just
Well, because, we've already, there's a video from the Eagles, and they said, why didn't you write any more songs? I said, we've used heart, we've used love, we've used all these words up. We're out of songs because we've used all the words. So we've used all the S's on our names, so we're done.
I do have to say, I appreciate this exercise. I think is awesome, because when I get to this point in the semester and I talk about recruitment selection, it's difficult sometimes to explain the pros and cons of why you take each type of candidate, because a lot of times the students are like, well, isn't it unethical to take competitor sales? And so to have a reason and say, well, it all is contextual, and I think that, because I explain that to them, but it's foreign, so it's like, I guess that makes sense. But to start with that and say, okay, well, if it's an immediate need, maybe that's not, because I would much rather have the hot and fresh cookie, right?
Would you rather have the cookie dough?
Yes, but in immediate need, if my company is like, no, we need a cookie now, I've got to make sacrifices. I have to do something that maybe isn't ideal, but it's...
And that's the whole purpose of it too, is, it's not about cookies, but it's trying to relate it to salespeople, and there are different needs, and all of those have pluses, and all of them have minuses. When you hire that experienced rep from a competitor, you get all that experience, good and bad. You get all their baggage that they're bringing with you. And why are they leaving? Is it because of money? Is it because their things aren't going? You don't know why. So as a manager, you've got to piece all those ingredients together too to figure out, is it a good change, or am I getting somebody else's problem?
And if they're willing to hop away from there, it's their situation. Are they just going to bounce away from you at the next best offer?
Exactly. I worked in high tech, in the Bay Area of kind of semiconductor companies, and we looked at things. We always worried about job changers, and then our position changed entirely. It said, "You've been at that job for 5 years. What's wrong with you? Why aren't other companies and other startups trying to hire you? If you're willing to stay there, and especially for 10 years, there's got to be a problem with you. You need to be much more entrepreneurial."
If you want to really help, it might be very good to just take some pictures of the chips, the cookie dough, that and that, and now we can have the perfect setup. So you don't have to be bringing all this setup.
That makes it fun.
Hey, but the good news is you can eat the cookies during class, so.
And we're going to pass the cookies around. Help yourself, because that's the final bribe.
All these cookies I can bring in, but what are we going to do with them?
Does anybody live locally?
Okay, thank you.